Hi everyone! Today we're going to share a story of the Vikre Distillery. In this presentation, Team 2 is going to walk you through how this distillery started, what the Vikre Distillery does, and what we've learned from this entrepreneurship in the news. Here's how the story started. The young couple, Emily and Joel Vikre, moved to Minnesota and continued their education and career in nutrition science. One day, in a conversation with Emily's professor, who is also a Scotch lover, said to Emily, "The Scotch people made the finest whiskey in the world because of their amazing water." Fun fact, Emily and Joe live by Lake Superior, which offers the best water in the world. In a calm day, you can see 75 feet through the water. Why isn't anyone making Minnesota whiskey? They thought to themselves. This inspired Emily and Joe to start a whiskey and gin distillery in Minnesota. Really? But how? Neither of them drinks whiskey or any hard liquors. Here's how. Emily is passionate about food and putting flavors together, as well as brand development. Joel is a natural when it comes to equipment and business strategies. Starting a distillery business would combine the talents of both of them. After their market research, they discovered that the craft spirits market was just about to take off. The business opportunity was bright, and the timing was just perfect. Starting a distillery suddenly became a very reasonable business decision. Thankfully, the news travels fast in a small town. Emily and Joel were able to use their network to accumulate a large group of small investors. So, Emily and Joel said to themselves, "Let the journey begin."
So about the history, it was founded in 2012 by an husband and wife team, Joel and Emily. They make gin, aquavit, vodka, and whiskey. They also have rye and bourbon aging right now. They have received awards from the American Craft Distillers Association, the American Distilling Institute, and Wine Enthusiast for their gin and aquavit. They use fresh, clean water from Lake Superior, which was the inspiration for this business. And they required about $1 million to start up this business. And to do so, they sold 50% of equity. They did it in like a Kickstarter style. They accumulated a large group of small investors, and each of the investors holds about 1 to 2% of the shares. Currently, they have 8 employees and the 2 founders working there.
I will now outline some of the entrepreneurial principles we've seen in this article. The most prominent entrepreneurial flavor in our article is the overt use of effectuation used in the decision to pursue and ultimately in the growth of the business. Though Emily and Joel had a prompting towards whiskey, one can see how the given means of Minnesota's agricultural products, Emily's domestic talents, and Joel's mechanical skills transformed into the imagined end of the Vikre Distillery. Furthermore, since whiskey takes several years to age, these entrepreneurs needed to come up with something that was unaged to keep their business afloat. They decided to make gin using elements from the Minnesota wilderness. These are called boreal juniper, boreal spruce, and boreal cedar. At Vikre Distillery, there were some elements of lean startup at play, although due to the specialized nature of the business and the expensive equipment needed, there might not have been a good way to measure consumer response without actually formulating the product. However, they were able to gauge interest by speaking to people in their locale and getting feedback. They were also able to start by dealing with friends and family in order to determine the value of their first gin products while the whiskey was still aging. We would call this the minimum viable product, or MVP.
Predictions about the future of Vikre Distillery. Vikre Distillery will see an increase in competition in its local market in the coming years. Vikre Distillery will continue to diversify its product offerings in an effort to continue to maintain its comparative advantage. The firm may also look to expand its operations in at least 2 neighboring states. Vikre Distillery may seek to acquire smaller and newer distilleries within the Minnesota area, whilst it might be subject to the threat of a possible takeover from a company such as Kraft, which currently owns 45% of the market.
All the reasons Emily and Joel came up to create a sense of logic behind their business decision turn out to be true. We should always have the courage to follow our hearts and intuitions. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Good luck.